Hi, this is Stephanie Pichet with RCR News Media. I am here speaking with two of the folks involved with the film Saving Beauty, Living with the Rare Ones Among Us. And guess what they are? We have Christina Selby and Arturo Anzures with us today. And they're going to talk about this very important film that is going to be screening during the Santa Fe Film Festival from the 17th to the 21st. So let's start with an introduction with Christina. Christina, give us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to make this film.
Yeah, so I've been in the environmental field for years and years. Started out studying ecology and then got into environmental education. And about 6, 7 years ago, I switched to be a conservation storyteller or communicator. That's what I call myself. So I work independently and I work with scientists and environmental groups and individuals to tell stories around conservation issues. So I had met Daniela Roth, who's our state botanist, several years ago, and went out and volunteered with her, hunting down rare flowers in the forests of New Mexico. And she mentioned at a conference that I was also at with her about wanting to tell the story of this Pecos sunflower, which is kind of, she thinks of it as her poster child for rare plant conservation. Um, and so she had mentioned wanting to do a video. At the time, I wasn't really involved in filmmaking. I was doing photography and writing. Um, so I just mentioned to her that I was interested, but needed to think about it some more. And then my friend Arturo here contacted me. He was looking for some video projects. I'm like, oh, well, I have this project that's been on the back burner for a while. What do you think about working on this? And that's how I got started.
Wonderful. So both you and Arturo live in New Mexico, correct?
Correct.
Yes? Okay, great. And Arturo, you're in Santa Fe as well, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Santa
Okay.
Fe.
So tell us about you. You're a filmmaker. So what drew you to creating movies and film and to tell stories?
Yeah. So I've told stories my whole entire life and just always looking for the next project and working on, telling good stories. And I have the good merit to know this awesome lady here and this project started and it's been an awesome ride.
Okay, so tell us now a little bit more about your process, how you started creating this story, and go into more about what the documentary is going to help share uh, the journey and the important information. Because I noticed that you're discussed 150 years of development. What can you explain what that means to us?
Yeah, so the story is about an ecosystem in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, which is in eastern New Mexico, kind of in the middle of the arid grasslands.
Okay.
And Santa Rosa is famous for its blue hole, which is this sinkhole lake. It's like 130 foot deep and 60 foot wide. And it's got all these channels and canals underground, and scuba divers love to go there. But right across the street from that, the water pours out and it creates this wetland. That's a special kind of wetland only found in the Southwest United States and northern Mexico, called a cienega. And that just means a like a wet meadow. But they are fed by water that is artesian water, so the water bubbles up from the ground. It can be thousands and thousands of years old from deep, deep aquifers. And they are isolated by the surrounding arid lands. And so the species have developed there over thousands of years, and they're found nowhere else in the world. So these are dotted all across the Southwest and Arizona and Texas and throughout New Mexico. And uh, wetlands in general in the West have really been impacted by development, by grazing, by draining, by just capturing the water.
Mhm.
And so about somewhere between 50 and 95% of these springs, these wetlands created by springs, have already been lost. So when we got involved in the project, it was first about this Pecos sunflower that only grows in these types of wetlands. And so they're very rare. There's only like 7 small locations in eastern New Mexico and western Texas that they grow. And they're beautiful because once a year in the fall, in September, they bloom, and they bloom over acres and acres. And there's just everything lights up in yellow, and they attract all kinds of migrating songbirds and pollinators. And so it's a really special, unique ecosystem that's right on the edge of Santa Rosa, in the town of Santa Rosa. So the forestry department created this preserve, nature preserve, and the state botanist has been working there for years and years. A lot of these Pecos sunflowers and other rare and endangered species occur on private lands. So what really interested us about the story was that involvement of the community in sort of rescuing and restoring this place. And at first we thought we'd just do a short little web video to kind of explain what this plant is and why it's important and what the habitat is. But we started going to Santa Rosa pretty regularly and got to know the mayor and the private landowners and all of the community. And it's a really unique sort of traditional agricultural Hispanic community really involved in this in the saving this plant. So it's one example of what's going on across the Southwest in terms of these ecosystems.
Right. And it's an important story to tell, even though it's doesn't face everyone. It does face everyone because every area around the world has their own ecosystem and challenges for the inhabitants, right?
Exactly. And also it was fun for me to sort of illuminate what it means to conserve a plant, because you often hear about endangered animals, but you don't really hear about plants or what it takes to save a plant. And, you know, there's something like 40% of the world's plants are in danger of extinction. And so just bringing that to the light was really important for both of us, I think.
So can you tell me, how are the people in Santa Rosa in that area, are they receptive to, highlighting the importance of the preservation of this area?
Go
I
ahead,
think
Arturo.
I think they are a lot more aware of it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that particularly because of the work that's being done with the youth, in the high school, there's a lot of education and outreach about the specialness about this flower and the wetlands in general.
Mm-hmm.
But we heard some stories from before in the older days of people thinking that they were just weeds or taking them for granted because they were always there and they came back every year and after year. And, it was just that thing that is here and it's always going to be here. But the thing about the wetlands is that they're being destroyed at an alarming rate. And it's intense because if they go away, then, we don't know what the ramifications of that is going to be, like the repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that to some extent that this project has created some awareness as well. And people are more aware of the importance of it and taking care of the wetlands. And I think that, the flower is breathtakingly beautiful when it blooms. It's really a sublime thing when it's just gorgeous. Just thousands and thousands of them. But the protection of the flower, it's kind of like an excuse to protect the habitat where it grows, because if the habitat leaves, it disappears. Of course the flower is going to disappear, but so many other negative repercussions would come from that as well.
Can you give us some examples of what catastrophic problems that are, arise from these type of ignoring, preservation of these type of areas, environments?
Sure, and I think Christina can talk more on this.
Okay.
But from my understanding, like, first of all, there's migratory birds and insects that wouldn't have a place to land, and these areas function as safe spaces for a lot of species, and also function to stabilize like the weather and the environment as well. So I don't know what the final repercussions would be, but most of them are already gone.
Mm. Christina?
Just to tag on, as Arturo was saying, there are other rare and endangered species. There's at least two other plants. One is being listed federally, is up for proposal for that. There are snails in the water. There are small fish. There are many other species that the protection of this flower also sort of as an umbrella species protects them as well. And these springs act as sort of corridors through the desert for migrating mammals and migrating birds as stop-offs. And so the more of them that disappear, the more difficult it makes the lives of migrating species. And of course, if Santa Rosa loses its wetlands and its ancient springs, it also loses what tourism economy that it has built up around that. It's an important source of water for certain types of agriculture in that area, although it is salty, but it does serve. So they do run and feed their cattle on the wetland plants that grow there. So there are land-based, economies built around these wetlands that would suffer as well.
Wow. So in the process of making this documentary, what are some of the things that were challenging for you?
Well, for me, it was the first time I made a film, so I was just on a huge learning curve. I got for Arturo, who really helped me out. So I was doing a lot of the behind the scenes photography. I was doing like kind of the second camera. I do fly a drone, so I was, able to add a lot of footage with the drone. That was one thing that was challenging. Another thing was just, we started out thinking that would be a short film, but we actually spent almost 18 months going back again and through the seasons. So we could really capture the field work that happens throughout that time and the sort of changes over the seasons. And one way we were able to capture how things change over the seasons was through a long-term time-lapse camera that we could use to turn into video. And so we set that up. And so that had me going back every 3 weeks or so to change out the memory card. Yeah, and then some access to Santa Rosans and the mayor, that took a while, but eventually we got there with the help of Daniela and the other folks from the Forestry Service. And I think once folks in the community saw that we were around a lot and coming back, then they were more open to talk to us on camera and sort of be part of the film.
And so what are some of the things that you learned? Above and beyond filmmaking?
Yeah.
One thing that I learned, and I think we both did, is to trust the process, because it required a lot of patience as we as the story showed itself to us, like what the thread of the story was, and it changed. We had some idea at the beginning of where it was going to go and what we're doing with it, and then we saw that it was doing something by itself, and we just learned how to listen and just be there to accommodate what it wanted from us, and being super patient with the plants changing and the weather and some people canceling or something happens. And it's not it's not that far away, but it's a drive to go back and forth to Santa Rosa, and just working on that and capturing what we could when we were there, and then also while we listened to what the story was. I think that's something that we learn, like how the story comes. Like it's different than how some people think about movies and documentaries and like stories, books, whatever, narratives. Maybe some people think that, well, it just, this person had this idea and then they just did it, but like the reality is that the story is not really created, it's just stated. So we're just there to hold a space for it to come to life on its own,
to reveal itself to you, because that's definitely a labor of love for you, spending about 18 months capturing this space over time, because it does change and it does reveal to you the different secrets that it's holding, whether it's spring or summer or winter. So were there any other challenges in getting this made for along the path? I mean, like you say, you wanted to you originally thought it was going to be a web video or a short but then it became a much bigger story and a much bigger platform for a documentary, and now you're in festivals. So is it something that you see yourself doing more of, these type of stories?
These type of stories for me, yeah, that's what I do. That's what I'm passionate about. Whether or not I'll do another feature film, it really depends on the subject and you know, the context, and if that is the right medium to tell the story. But I'll continue to work on the stories for sure. And I think, you know, as far as other challenges, it was just the, I guess it was a challenge, sort of letting the story unfold over time. And there were points where, you know, we just like be okay, this is it, we're done. We're gonna call it and finish, and then something else would come up and like, oh no, we really need that part of the story. Or talk to another person like, oh, there's this whole other branch coming off of the flower over here. Let's explore that for a while. You know, we finally said, okay, that's done. We're done with it. But um, I think that was also a challenge, but really like a beautiful benefit, just like getting to know Santa Rosa and this place so well through doing the documentary film. And thank God we did it mostly in 2019 because, you know,
Right.
2020 ended up being what it was.
Right.
And we did originally plan to sort of premiere it at their beautiful new restored Pecos Theater in town, but it got shut down. So it's been a little bit of challenge of how to get, we really wanted to get it out to Santa Rosans first. We've done that in some
Right.
ways virtually, but we still have plans to really work with the community. And they are planning a sunflower festival for this September, sort of God willing. So we hope to premiere it there at the festival.
Well, that would be really nice. And what a tribute to your work,
Yeah,
to have it shown there. And I think that, you know, your labor of love is definitely going to be appreciated over time, by not only the folks in Santa Rosa, but also the state of New Mexico, because it's an important topic for us as residents of New Mexico, to see these areas preserved. I know it's an important thing for a lot of us to have, those protections in place.
yeah, absolutely. And if this story can inform other communities and how they're looking at the springs in their own backyard, that would be really a great outcome.
Yeah, I think we take a lot for granted, right? The water's there. We don't think about it. In 5 years from now, it may be gone, and then you worry about why that happened, and that's why your story and your film is important, because we don't spend that time to really understand the ecosystem, to take a look deeper into all of the things that are affected by, you know, not watching what's happening and not preserving those areas and not
Yeah.
understanding them, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly my experience. And I'm hoping other people will have this experience, is that every time I went out, I realized, oh my gosh, there's this species of snail in this spring that I'm looking at that doesn't even have a name yet. Like scientists haven't identified what it is. Or this fish that, you know, just a month ago got a name, or this tiny little aquatic insect that, you know, the paper just was published last month. It's like I've been to the Amazon, to the Himalayas, like looking for rare and endangered species. And then here in our backyard, 2 hours away from where I live, are species that people that aren't even on the map, you know, they're not even named yet. And so um, that was just like mind blowing for me in a way, to realize like the treasures that we have, we don't even realize we have. And if people can sort of get curious about what's in their backyard and what it really means to have something that's found nowhere else in the world. Like most of these springs, the species are only in that single spring in the entire world. And
Wow.
that's an amazing, you know, treasure that we have here.
And a discovery. I mean, to show, hey, nobody else has, you know, named these species, or they're nowhere else to be found. So that brings the importance even higher, to light for people, I think, for them to recognize, oh, wait a minute, stop and understand what's happening.
Yeah, and say, what's in my backyard? I have a spring or, a random grassland, what could possibly be there that we just don't even know about yet.
Right, great. So before we go, Arturo, do you have anything else you want to share about your experience in this creating this masterpiece that we're going to be seeing at the Santa Fe Film Festival?
Yeah, something that I was thinking about is that how important it is to protect nature, and especially because we don't even know all about it yet, and we're losing it. And one of the points that the movie makes is that the protection of the environment, it can happen from happen in different ways. It can happen from fear of losing something. It can happen from um uh just like different reasons, right, like wanting to protect nature in for different reasons. But one of the reasons is just because it's beautiful, and we should protect it just because it's beautiful, not even thinking about, well, maybe we're not going to have water and then it's going to affect us. That's a reason as well. But I think it's a more noble way to protect it if we just want to conserve what's beautiful, because we have a lot of that, and some of it is going really fast.
Right, good point. Christina, any final thoughts outside of come see the film?
Yeah, come see the film. I hope people enjoy it and get excited about these discoveries in New Mexico and the Southwest, and just, enjoy the beautiful scenery that's out there.
Even just watching the trailer, the beauty that you captured is phenomenal, and I cannot wait to watch during the screening that we'll be having this week for the Santa Fe Film Festival. Thank you so much, Christina and Arturo, for joining us. We are excited and thankful that you have created this documentary to help enlighten and educate us.
Yeah, thank you. And just want to thank the Santa Fe Film Festival for giving it a venue and a space for people to see it.
Well,
Totally.
yeah, great. Well, we appreciate it. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be
Okay,
well.
take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.